What we also do is have a leaf analysis of our marrows, so we need to ensure that the plants are healthy. Sometimes I just chuck too much on, and I put too much chicken pellets on, and it basically exploded the marrow, so I didn't read what it said on the tin. So this is a photograph here of our compost tea. This has 1.6 billion bacteria per 1 gram, so it has a lot of bacteria, which is really good for plant health. It also has nano iron, and this is the SB Plant Invigorator, which is the horticultural soap. I don't know if you can get that in America, but it's really good stuff. But maintenance of plants is key, and keep an eye on the plants every day. Foliar feeding is key as well, so we'll do that later in the evening. We'll also foliar feed underneath the leaf, because the stomata is thinner, so it will absorb through the leaf structure. In terms of success for marrows, that was in Aberglasney Gardens, and then we had a book published by Red Bull. Red Bull were one of the partners to the book, and that was a photograph in a Renault with the marrow going in there. Unfortunately, I had to cut it for the book, but it was growing quite well. This is a photograph here of one of our marrows last year, which got to 159 pounds. So that was only growing for about 5 weeks from pollination to actually producing. But that is all about the techniques that we use to grow them. And this is a photograph of it cut open, because the seeds are really important for us, and trying to keep those seed lines going, as my dad did. And my dad started off developing all the seeds. I'm just continuing his passion, really, as well. Runner beans, I don't know if you grow runner beans here, but I'll just give you a couple of quick tips on how we grow our runner beans. They're started off in pots. We'll grow, so when the bean actually comes up, we will nip after the first true leaf. So then you'll have 2 side shoots, which we call leaders. And the leaders, then you'll pick the strongest leader, sorry. This is a photograph of our frogs. They don't like slugs, I don't know why, but and this is a photograph here of the actual 2 leaders which are coming out of the bean. So what we're doing with our beans is trying to get them as long as possible. So our longest bean is 32 inches, and this is a photograph here of how we try to stretch them. So we'll use string, we'll use pegs in the ground to try and stretch the bean, but sometimes it's a little bit too much and it snaps. Some people use weights as well, like fishing weights, to try and stretch the bean, but we've never been able to master the right techniques. In terms of hydroponics, we've done some really good work on hydroponics. We've grown the first world record growing in this system, so it's a real amazing achievement last year. I managed to do a collaboration with Nottingham Trent University and Dr. Gareth Cave, who we met just by Facebook, really, just chatting. And this is a photograph of Gareth, who came down. He's one of the lead scientists in the UK in terms of plant horticulture. And sadly, Gareth had face cancer, but it's good to see that he's back on the road to recovery now, because he's a real asset to the growing community in the UK. So I don't know does anybody grow hydroponically? Yeah. When I first started, I thought, what the heck am I doing? But it's really easy. This system is really easy. And this is a self-watering system, so I'll show you in a bit how that's done. So in terms of the basis of hydroponics is about potentially grow lights if you haven't got good enough sunlight or daylight, the right nutrients, and then the right macronutrients and micronutrients in the plant. So what you're doing in these pots is you're creating the perfect growing environment, which is disease-free, because in the soil can be born with diseases. And what we have in the UK is a disease it's a bacteria called verticillium, which affects many countries in the world. And what Gareth wants to do is try and get the enzymes out of the plants and try and develop something for trying to cure this, because it's affecting all the countries in the world in terms of the third world countries as well. So he'd be a very rich man if he can develop something that's natural that can help that. In terms of hydroponics, there's quite a lot of hydroponic grown vegetables and fruit. We went to see a strawberry farm in the UK. They have 3 crops. So growing hydroponically, you can grow 250% faster. So they have 3 crops of strawberries from one actual strawberry plant, which is amazing. This is, in terms of hydroponics, is the same kind of growing in terms of how we start our plants off. So these are the tomatoes, exactly the same. So I've given you a bit of a guide on how we do our soil and our our hydroponics. So this here is the reservoir, which has a plant timer on it. So because we're really busy, we have a plant timer which can water between 1 day, 2 day, and 3 days. So that has been a lifesaver for us really this year. And we haven't started putting them in yet, but the seeds will be going in when I get back on Tuesday morning. In terms of hydroponics as well, the pH is essential as well. So when we're growing in soil, the pH needs to be about 6.5 to 6.8 for growing many of the giant vegetables. But in hydroponics, you need a lower pH, so between 5.8 and 6, which is the optimum for growing, which is a totally different concept to me, and it's a new way of learning. We also have, and I don't know where it is, but it's a pH stick. Here it is. This is my magic wand. This basically goes into water. So in our water supply in the UK, we will have calcium within it. So this will, sorry, not this, sorry. Here's my magic wand. So these are from New Zealand. So this here is called a blue lab truncheon. And this will control or tell you how much nutrient is in this reservoir. So within the UK, we have calcium and magnesium within our water. So this reads about 0.2. So what that says to us is we don't need to put calcium and magnesium into our system. So I'm not sure what the structure of your water is in the US. So this also is a pH meter. So this pH meter tells us the pH of the water. And what was really interesting was the rainwater was we got IBC tanks, which are plastic tanks, which collects all our rainwater from our tunnels, which is used to fill these. So it's totally sustainable in terms of water production. But we try also to use tap water just to see if there's any difference. But the pH of that was 9. So we had to use pH down to bring it down. So if we wouldn't have been using one of those, then it would have been detrimental to our plants. This is a photograph here of the mycorrhiza in action, and that is a cucumber there, which is grown in coir. So you can see a totally different white root structure. And it's amazing to see the different root structures in coir. The problem with coir is you need to use different, you can use organic nutrients within the coir to keep the plant growing, because there's no nutrients in the coir. This is when I had a really bad haircut from a trainee who said to me when he was doing it, he trained as an architect, and he didn't do a very good job. So I've got a bit of a bald patch, which Jamie keeps on to me, but I had a bald patch on the sides as well. So this here is the tanks. So they're 500-litre tanks, which feeds through these pipes here. So that goes from the reservoir, and it's a self-watering system. So in the bottom we will have expanded clay pebbles. So the clay pebbles are basically porous, so they will act as a slow release nutrient release into the plants. And this here is basically just the valve which controls the amount of water that goes into the plants. It's amazing, it's really easy. And here is a photograph of Jamie with one of the cucumbers. That cucumber there measured 36 inches in length. The world's largest is 43 inches. So that's held by Ian. And we developed the seeds for that cucumber. And this is the first time we've ever grown hydroponically, because we've had to grow hydroponic cucumbers because of the verticillium in the soil. So the verticillium affects the plants, and what will happen is the plants will just wilt when they get fruit. So it's a means to an end for us, really, because without this system, we wouldn't be able to grow cucumbers. So we had a lady come over from New Zealand, Linda. She did an article on us and trying to get us over to New Zealand, which hopefully we'll be going over the next January or February for their festival, because we won't be growing anything then, so we won't have to worry about our plants drying out. And this here is a photograph of the cucumber. So they're supported by, and I can't remember what William said, the fleece. We use horticultural fleece, but Remay, yeah. So that is basically tied around the actual stem of the cucumber to support it, because they will weigh about 20 pounds in weight, the cucumbers. And this is a cucumber here which is ripened, but They don't get many seeds in either, so the seeds will only be in the bottom. So per cucumber, you will get maybe 10, 20 seeds. Seed saving is very important as well. These are onions, so the world's heaviest onion is 18 pounds in weight. So for the very first time here, we've been able to save our own seed for onions by growing in coir. So if we grow in compost, the roots and the plants will get too wet. So the coir allows for free draining, and it's allowed the roots to actually to form. And it's an amazing root structure in there. These are just turning into flower, and my dad used to use a rabbit's tail to pollinate. So what we don't want with those is the bees to cross-pollinate, so we want to keep the pure strain.